This episode is brought to you by Anivia Pickleball, your premier destination for high-quality pickleball paddles designed to elevate your game. At Anivia, they are committed to providing players across Canada with innovative, performance-driven pickleball paddles crafted for durability, precision, and ease of play. Irene and myself are currently using their Gen 3 Pro paddle, and if you head over to Anivia.com and enter the code AGorman15, you get 15% off your order. That's AGorman15 at Anivia.com. All right, on with the show. Hey everyone, Andrew here from the Pickleball Diaries podcast. Thanks so much for joining us on this episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to hit like and hit subscribe down below. If you're listening to this on Spotify or iTunes or any other podcasting network, make sure you give us a 5-star review at the end of the episode. It only takes a couple seconds of your time. It just really helps us out in the algorithm so we can keep bringing you this awesome content. All right, back to the episode. Thank you guys. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Pickleball Diaries podcast. I'm Andrew Gorman, your host, joined by, of course, Victor Chan, certified pickleball referee. And we just got off doing the broadcast from the CNPL Central Split. How was it, Vic?
That was fun. We did it at our house. If well, obviously we didn't have any video, right? We just you guys probably just hear our voice, but it did it in my house.
Yeah, I was down for at Vic's house for their baby shower over the weekend, so we got to just be in the same room and do it. So it was really fun with that. So getting right into the whole thing. So if you were looking to find out where the games were, all the games on Court 1 were on Game Plus. All the games on Court 2 were on YouTube, and me and Vic were on the YouTube broadcast. But before we get into the event itself, there was two big things that happened just before the event started, both very significant. So we're going to start with, on Friday, it got announced that the Vancouver Rush were bought by the Owl Sports company, which, for those of you who don't know, they're the ones who developed the Owl paddle, the quiet paddle. So they changed the name to the Vancouver Owls. So I made the joke to Vic. I was like, that wasn't last minute at all. Now I got to change all of the graphics that I had pre-made up for the games we were broadcasting on. So I had to make some quick adjustments there. And then the other big news was that Toronto United traded Carolina Hack and Cash to the Pronghorns for Jordan Vigna. To be honest, I didn't understand the logic in this trade on the Pronghorn side, and that's not a shot at Carolina. It just, why are you making this trade literally days before the event? Like you had, like the team was probably already had pre-planned. Okay, this is what the mixed teams are going to be. This is what our double teams are going to be, and now you're throwing that, and now you're throwing this change in. For I could see maybe this trade happening after the first event, but not before the first event. It didn't seem to make sense to me on a standpoint. For the Toronto United, it made a little bit more sense. It looked like at least the way teams were drafted, that Carolina was going to be the sub for their team. So getting Jordan in, you're bringing in that veteran presence of a 3-year vet coming in, especially with the other two players being Sneha, who, yes, is a second-year vet, but same thing, was a rookie last year, didn't have to be like the leader of the team. And of course, Jada Buey coming in, rookie, hadn't really played super high-level pickleball, at least on this scale before. So bringing so like Carolina being the veteran presence, but also kind of being the sub, and then getting Jordan, who's going to come in and probably play a lot more games as the veteran presence. I understand why Toronto made this trade, but I don't really understand making this trade as far as on the Pronghorn side of things.
Yeah, it's kind of very interesting as it is. Kind couple of things too. That's all still speculation. Pronghorns does not have an owner, so we don't know who make that decision. And then the other things, some speculation also that I heard is maybe Jordan didn't really want to go all the way to the west to practice, but those are speculation, right? There's no confirmation about those. That could play a effect during that trade. Like you said, Toronto United has a strong point to make that trade because they want to have someone that has tremendous experience in the CNPL in order to help their team to push them to the next level. Because if we look at the current like the old roster of Toronto United, it doesn't seem to have like a female leader at that point. But right now you bring someone that's have much more experience and that has been performing pretty well on the CNPL scenes. That will help to build the other two players up. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And as we go on to each team, as we go through our breakdown, it becomes more apparent, at least in how each player was used by their respective new teams, of why I personally think the trade wasn't, at least on the Pronghorns side of thing, that great, or at least wasn't utilized properly.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And then just to talk about the Isles, yes, last minute, but not that last limit, right? They already have shirts for all the players, so I'm pretty sure that's what was planned in advance. It's just waiting for the right moment to announce.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess with it being the day before, that probably gets the most eyes on it, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll get into jerseys and stuff as probably a bonus thing at the end. There we'll maybe rate the team jerseys, but no, yeah. So those were the two big things that happened just before the event started. So what we're gonna do is now we're gonna talk about sort of the production side of things. Of course, because we had a little bit of behind the scenes look being on the broadcast, even though we were doing it remotely. And then we'll get into like the team by team kind of breakdown of what we thought the teams, how the teams looked, what combinations we kind of thought worked, what kind of combinations maybe didn't quite work. Because there were some teams that you could see trying out everyone and seeing where everyone fit, almost using this more of like a preseason event. And then other teams were just like, no, these are our starters. This is what we're going with, type of thing. So
definitely.
Yeah. So on the production side, so for our end on the YouTube channel, so a few hiccups on the first day. We had a miscommunication with the people on site who were doing commentary on the first court, and they accidentally left the mics on the court that we were broadcasting on. So the very first day when we were broadcasting, there was a couple games where we were a little quiet because you could hear all the players and the crowd that were right behind the commentary booth because of how the mics were angled. And we almost picked up a couple hot mic moments that probably wouldn't have gone over that well if the words came in clearly.
Yeah.
There was also a spot where me and Vic got disconnected, not on our side, but on the on-site side, where we missed, I think, at least one game of one of the matches.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, it was just a single shot camera. We didn't have any commercials or any like instant replay or any multiple camera angles. There was no player interviews because we were literally just the court feed, and then you had commentary, so it was a lot of talking for me and Vic, like constantly calling out the sponsors, and things like that, which we were totally fine with. It just gave us more to talk about. We just had to make sure we didn't give any dead air. We both took turns filling in while the other either took a drink or had a quick bite. So it was fun on that side. Vic was working the score clock remotely from our location. Now, the only thing we couldn't switch was the actual team graphics. We could change the who was on the court, and we could change the score, but we couldn't change like the logos. So we had to wait for onsite to do that. So there was a couple times where the onsite crew, because as far from what we heard, were a little short-staffed the whole weekend. So once in a while they didn't get until we were already like a game or two into the matchups where they'd actually switch the logos for the teams. But other than that, for day one, was pretty good. Day two, our mics came in really, really clear. I went back and looked at some and watched some of the games, and you could hear us a lot more clearly on that. The other thing we Yeah, go ahead, Vic.
They get rid of that background noise. Yeah, that background noise was really annoying in the first match. We basically our mic are fighting against that mic. Basically, that's what was happening. And then, Andrew has been monitoring the YouTube chat at all time during the whole commentary, and some of them they're just saying we just barely can hear us talking, and we're like talking so loud. According to Jason, which is one of the production teams, they're saying our mic is very hot. Like basically we're really talking as loud as we can.
Yeah, exactly. It almost felt a couple times we were shouting to make sure our voice overcarried. And also the nice thing about the second day is they angled the in-court cameras a little bit better so you could hear the ref announce the score a little bit better. You could also hear more of like the actual action on the court. You could hear the ball hitting the paddles. You could hear that stuff, which is always good to hear. And you can hear the players like cheering when they score a point. So on the production side of things on the YouTube channel on day 2, that was a lot better. I had a crap ton of fun interacting with people in the chat on the YouTube live stream. We're going to give a big shout out to Faye, who was by far the MVP of the people watching the stream, was commenting, telling people to get the likes up and stuff like that. We had family members come in and shout out their players. We had family members from Tokyo message in the chat, from London in the UK, family members of players who aren't even in the league anymore, like Victoria DeMuso's mom was in the chat cheering for the Brewers and stuff like that. So that was really fun. I enjoyed doing the interaction with the fans watching. I think at the one of the games we got up to almost 200 people in the chat. Mm-hmm. At one point. So that was a really fun part of the production. Our camera angle was really good. It was, the typical full court pickleball camera that you normally see for most events when there's only a single shot camera. So could see the whole court, most of the shots. We could see there was a couple of spots where just because of our angle, we couldn't really see. And then, like we said, we didn't have instant replay, so we couldn't go back and look at stuff unless we wanted to rewind on the actual YouTube stream itself. Mm-hmm. But all in all, I thought it went really well. We got lots of compliments in the chat from everyone. We had a lot of fun with it. Anything to add to that, Vic?
Not much. I think the second day definitely went better than the first day, due to the mic issue. And then obviously also the second day, I think sometimes the score was a little bit fuzzy on my end, because I'm on my since I have control of the score, I need to check. Okay, am I there? Am I scoring the right one? The first day there, if my score was wrong, there's no way to listen to it. The second day, Andrew could have kind of listened to it. Okay, oh yeah, you're like down a score, or you're too far a score. I can like make that adjustment on the fly, so that help a lot. Since we're not live, right? That's not easy to know if we got the score wrong and stuff like that.
Yeah, so all in all, for us doing it remotely from Edmonton, Alberta, especially when it's in London, Ontario, I thought it went really, really well. Had lots of fun with it. So production side for the Game Plus Court 1. So the big thing, and we saw this in the YouTube chat, is a lot of people had trouble finding where this was. So Game Plus is the Game Plus network doesn't have its own app. It's on, like, it is on Rogers or Shaw, it is on Telus, on Bell, on like the actual like satellite channels. And it's I know for me, like, I PVR'd it at my house. Now I couldn't watch it when I was at Vic, so when I came home Sunday night and then Monday on Victoria Day, I sat there and watched a couple of the games, a couple of the streams and stuff like that. So they did have multi angles. They did do. They did have. They had their commentary as well. They had commercials being shown. They even did like an outside shot of the Smash complex via drone and stuff, which was really, really cool. The first day for the broadcast, the very first game, there was a massive delay in the video and the audio. It was almost like it was glitching. They got it fixed by the second game through that. And their full court shot, that would have been the same as the YouTube, for some reason came in really, really blurry. And they ended up just kind of scrapping it after about 3 games, and they didn't even use it on day 2. It was almost like the lines on the court and the net tape were glowing. Is kind of how it was, almost as if you were like looking through almost like a waterlogged camera, like everything was blurry. So I don't
Interesting.
know. I don't know if that was a camera issue or if it was a lighting issue in the facility. But they realized what was going on and they just scrapped that. So they were using the other camera angle. So you're getting more of like a corner angle of the courts when they shot. The cool thing was, though, of course, is when teams called timeout, they had a mobile camera that they would walk in and get behind the teams and the players and stuff like that, so you could see close up what was going on. You could hear the refs call the score very, very well. Like the mics there were working really well. The commentary was really, really well done. Shout out to all the people who helped out with the commentary on that side. Day two, yeah, like I said, they totally scrapped the idea of using that full court shot. Day two, they actually did have player interviews where they did that. They had some instant replay, which would appear up in the top corner after a big shot or something like that. If I'm going to compare it to last year, when it was on the CBC YouTube channel, the CBC one looked a lot more refined. Now, this might be just because it was the first time working with the Game Plus network, so they're working at the kinks. And like we said earlier, by the sounds of it, what we heard, I think a few people got sick and they were a little short-staffed. So certain things might not have been available because they didn't have the staff on hand to do things. So we'll see what happens at the Eastern split, which is going to be on June 7th and 8th, if they've worked out the kinks with the production stuff on that side. But yeah, going back to what we said about the Game Plus, I think the biggest thing with that one is a lot of people didn't understand where to find these games. And like we said, like Game Plus, yes, it's on TELUS, it's on Rogers/Shaw, on the actual satellite thing. Like, so if you have satellite or fiber optic or whatever it's called now, it is on there. And it is there as, like, I know for me, it was on there as a free channel if you have a basic package. So like that's why I was able to PVR it. I thought I could because I have like the mobile app of Rogers and of TELUS, that you'd be able to view the games on that. Now the problem is with that is if you wanted to view Game Plus on the Rogers or on the TELUS app, it was an additional subscription.
Yeah, which is a no-go. You didn't like people doesn't really want to pay for that, right?
Yeah, well, and unless you're watching a bunch of other things that are on Game Plus, so like other things that are on Game Plus is like the CEBL, so that's the Canadian Elite Basketball League, which is very popular. There's a lot of football, soccer stuff that's on there as well. The other app that the Game Plus is on is the Fubo app, which is same thing. That's what CEBL is on. That's what a lot of like European football games are on. So if you're a major soccer player and you already had the app, it was very easy to find. Like, I think now that we've had one event where everyone was like, hey, where do I find this game? Or where do I find this Game Plus? I think it'll be a little bit easier for people to find it. But in comparison, if you're comparing it to last year where CBC was the broadcaster and literally all you had to do was either go to the CBC YouTube channel or go on to CBC Gem or CBC Sports or whichever it was, which for people from Canada, that's stupid easy to find because we all know what CBC is.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where it's going to take an adjustment for people to figure out where the games were, and also if they're able to rewatch, because like I PVR'd it, but it's not like I can share my footage with Vic because it's literally on my fiber optic box. Right. So if I wanted to share it with Vic, I'd have to stick a camera in front of my TV screen, re-record it, and then send it to Vic. So there's no way for Vic to actually look at the games and analyze like I was able to, right? So, and I don't know if Game Plus reruns stuff after it's been on, or if you can go back, like if it's on the streaming app, are you able to go back and look at it?
Yeah,
type thing, like because so that's the one thing I'm wondering about. Whereas, of course, with YouTube, after the live stream is over, it comes on as a regular video, and you can go and rewind it and watch it as much as you want, right? So it's going to be a learning curve for people to figure out, okay, this is where we go if we want to watch these games or at least the games on this court. And it'll be interesting to see, especially with the Eastern and Western split coming up, where there's only going to be 4 teams playing, whether or not they're either going to have a court 2 or not.
Yeah, that will be a shame if it's just going to be in Game Plus, because like myself, I'm cable free. I don't even use cable anymore. So that's the reason why we couldn't watch on Game Plus at my house, right? And I will say a good majority of the Canadian household now probably are cable free now. Like unless you're like a commercial a building or what or like a sport bar that you still have cable, most of the household have moved on, unfortunately, from that cable or boxes. So that will be very difficult to get those, I would say, broader audience or the younger audience, especially those 20 and down audience. uh, Sorry, they're not watching cable.
Yeah, and it would be nice for Game Plus to be on one of the major streaming services like Netflix or like a Prime or a Crave or anything like that, where you could access it via that way.
Yeah,
But because
exactly.
it's on Fubo, and Fubo itself is already like, if I'm saying Fubo right now, there's probably a bunch of people listening and watching this podcast that have no idea what app I'm talking about, right? So, but yeah, if you go to the Game Plus website, it shows you where all of the ways to watch it are. So if you are one of those fans who is like, okay, I didn't know where to go to the Game Plus network.com or .ca or whatever it is, and it'll show you, okay, this is where it is on Rogers, this is where it is on Bell, this is where it is on Telus, this is where it is on this streaming app, this is where it is on this service, and go and see if you got it from there. And if you need to shell out a couple of bucks, and if you really want to shell out a couple of bucks to get a certain app or get that subscription during the CNPL season, then that's what we'll have to do, right? So, like I said,
Yeah.
lucky for me, it was already a free channel on my basic package, so I'll be able to watch it regardless from my house, or I'll PVR it if I'm not home. But yeah, that'll be the extent of it for now. But yeah, other than that, like I said, it looked like the short staff thing really affected that. So by the end of it, so like especially the second day and the last couple of matches, they seem to have the stuff down pat a lot more. Um, but yeah, we'll see. The Eastern split, we'll see if they've got all the kinks out and got it working at full force here.
Definitely. And for me, my wish is that Game Plus can have a app or something that everyone can just watch, because right now I think it's not that accessible. Like, luckily we still have the YouTube channel, but if it's just gonna be in Game Plus, it's gonna be problematic.
Yeah. And like we said, learning curve. What's the first time the league's using it, so it'll be interesting to see how they work together to make it more accessible for everybody. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go team by team here and kind of talk about what we saw from the teams, what we saw from the players on the teams, which and stuff like that. And we're gonna work our way through each team. The one thing we're gonna point out for this is there was only East versus West teams at this event. So none of the East teams played each other, and none of the West teams played each other. They only played, I guess if you want to say cross divisional. That was the way they had the tournament go. So, or the event go. So we're gonna start off with the Detroit Windsor Drive. Um, Vic, do you want to start with this, and like what did you like from this team? And I can toss out a few stats as well with it.
So talk about the drive. So there's a couple of new players. Obviously, we're me and Andrew were like, not sure how they gonna perform. Let's see how it goes, because obviously the first person that got drive West. Am I right? West Grapianson.
Yeah, West was drafted third overall.
Yeah, exactly. So they got drafted at West, and obviously he didn't play on the on the what
Unlike the qualifier showdowns.
the qualifier was it what the we call the draft. So it was very because he had also an exemption. So for us, it was a little difficult to see how does he perform. But in We did watch a few games, and I will say he is a very decent defender. Like there's a couple big highlights. Basically, you have LC from the Lions was smacking probably overheads like 5 to 6 times over to him, and he was able to get that over and actually hit back another lob winner, and that was a really amazing point. And you can really see that he is a that ambidextrous. So a little bit like Andrew, be able to switch hands. What he for him it was a also very natural things to do, and it kind of shows. And sometimes it does mess up some of the teams how to deal with him. Um, he did a very good showing in the men's, but on the mix he was slightly struggling. By the second day, he is able to insert himself a little bit more. But we can see on the first day, on some of the on his mixed game, he was very tentative to actually do the poach or being the aggressor into the match. So that probably caused a couple of matches to the drive. Next person was actually Jonas De here. We know he's already he's a very tall, very aggressive male player. He has been performing fairly well doing most of his match, and also I would say his mixed game has been very consistent. And now we have the three other ladies kind of not say anything like they're that they're not performing well, but I think there's a lot of them are kind of figuring out what to do. Jonas with Natalie, obviously that pairing was solid. They have been playing also for a while in some of the previous event, like the ARA the event, so they have a very good chemistry. However, for that's my impression. Audrey was a little bit more too defensive, or she's not able to really insert himself into the match. She's basically a very much a defender, or she's really just hesitating on some of her shots. Uh, Versus Alexis Contrado, I would say yes. The first day she was a little bit more tentative, but you can see on the second day she's really going for her shot, and like her serve, especially her serve has been very devastating on especially on the second day. And then the last person, Evan Holinsky, I would say he has been a pretty good showing as a sub. We can see his talent in there, but versus Jonas and Wes, the Wes and Jonas definitely are the clear favorite as a number one, number two spot for male.
Yeah, and watching quite a few of their matches, yeah, it seemed to be like and like we're gonna say this probably a lot this podcast. A lot of these players are figuring each other out because it's the first time playing super high level together as a pairing. Like Jonas and Natalie had the advantage of playing together last year in the CNPL and have been playing like high level open matches together on other circuits, whether it's in Canada or the States type of thing, right? So they already have kind of that built-in chemistry. Whereas, and especially for the ladies playing with Wes, even though Wes is ambidextrous, he is predominantly left-handed. So they were doing a reverse stack with Wes on the right and the lady on the left. So that I noticed that created at least the first couple of games, a couple of paddle clashes of them not knowing who's taking that middle ball. Because when you're forehands in the middle, you instinctively think, okay, I'm taking that middle ball, right? Whereas you do kind of want Wes to take a little bit more of that and have the lady go straight on with the female in front of her and see if they can take advantage of that, right? So, and you could tell a few of them probably hadn't played with a lefty player before, even though Natalie is also a lefty. It's different when it's women's and both female players are playing that. right?
Mm-hmm.
And Natalie, in comparison to the other two, and in comparison to Alexis and Audrey, has a lot more drive power. Whereas I find Audrey and Alexis were a little bit more counterpunch.
Yeah.
Right. So like when Natalie was on there with them, Natalie was going to step in and take that middle shot because she had the power to back it up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, but yeah, so the drive went 2-4. And there was a couple of games where even though they lost, like especially like Jonas and Wes, the men were right in that match. Like there was one they lost to, I think it was the Smash. The score said 21-11. That was probably one of the best men matches we'd seen. The
Yeah.
rallies were insane. Jonas had a behind the back shot that he scored on. The digging between Wes and between the two of them, and the counter punching between the two, they just couldn't finish off some of the points. So like I give this another like event or two, and I got a feeling like they're going to be right there with some of these other teams. The same thing with the women. Like you have Natalie is the only vet for the women on the team. So watching Audrey and Alexis kind of get used to this level of play and also this rally scoring style of play. I'm interested to see what they look like after, say, another two events to see if they've meshed and they can get, if not necessarily winning every match, but keeping every match like at like a 2021, a 21-19 type of
Mm-hmm.
game.
Yeah, obviously, it's not easy for those player that's is this as their first year to play in there, right? So the nerves obviously coming in, and you do not play with this partner for a while. That's first time play with your partner, so you're not in sync yet. So it does takes time.
Yeah, exactly. All right, moving on to the Pronghorns. So the Pronghorns also went 2-4, but the big issue with the Pronghorns, like, and we said earlier that they don't really have a coach. They don't really have an owner and we are not privy to the reasoning behind that right now because we did think they had an owner to start the season. But we don't know either way what was the reasoning behind that. But very what I would say inconsistent. They had some matches where they looked like what they should look like when we knew, because we knew a bunch of the players on this team.
Yeah.
When we looked on paper, it's like, okay, this game, yes, they looked like what we thought they should look like. And then there was other games where it's like, okay, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's miscommunication or what. Like, but one of the big factors with their 2-4 record is that they didn't win a single men's doubles match,
Which is very problematic.
Which is very problematic because you're basically starting every game down 1-0.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and like you have Brad Chapman, you had Chris Lane. Jacob did get in there for 3 games as well. But like with Brad and Chris as like your main pair, and there was a couple games where like most of the games it was like, a 20, 21, 17, 18, which is that's a good close match, and it just kind of last couple points got away. But there was a couple matches there where some blowouts happened.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just putting together a consistent performance. On the women's side, it was kind of the same thing. I don't think they used Carolina enough. Carolina only got into 2 games. And I know she's like her and Antoinette are from the east side. Everyone else is from the west, so it's not like she can get a lot of practice time with Kim. And like Kim played every single game, so it's not like Carolina had a chance to play with Antoinette. It was her or Antoinette going in with Kim, right? So
how was the women's record?
The women's record, it was better than the men's. Let's see. So like Carolina. So Carolina, when for her 2 games, she didn't win one. So the women had a total of 6 wins, and that was both when Kim and Antoinette were playing. So out of a possible, oh man, I can't do math here. So for example, Kim played all 12 matches, so she played then 6 women's games, so she won 50%.
Okay.
Right. Antoinette played a total of 8, and she won 3.
Okay.
Right. So it's one of those things where I think it's the same, especially on the women's side. It's getting used to each other, and this is
Mm-hmm.
the issue with Carolina and Antoinetta, like being from like Toronto area, um, and then like Laval, like Quebec area, respectively. It's got like they need to. I don't know if they want to schedule some type of meetup where they get some practice in with Kim, or
But anyway,
Kim goes
that
there, but
yeah, but that last minute trade does not help them for sure.
no, yeah,
That's
that
guarantee.
yeah, you trade away Jordan, who probably was the guaranteed starter with Kim,
Mm-hmm.
for Carolina, and then you only use Carolina in 2 games,
Yeah.
right? Like that's where and Carolina won the championship with Toronto United in the first year, and
Mm-hmm.
was a starter. Yes, like she kind of split her duties last year with Sneha as the year went on, but was still playing about 50% of the games.
Yeah.
So it's not like Carolina's a slouch. Like she knows how to win. She knows how to dig down deep and pull out those matches. She's done it. She's a proven winner.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So and if you want a really good example, all you gotta do is go to the CNPL website and it shows her scoring the game winning point to win the championship the first
Yeah.
year.
I
Right.
think the
So
biggest problem with the Pronghorns right now is being not having even a coach or a manager, because right now, that's according Courtney, which is the mother of Jacob. She mentioned, basically, Caitlin, which is the, well, will soon to be wife of Brad Chapman.
no, wife now.
Wife now? Okay, wife.
Yeah.
So wife of the Brad.
Congrats again to Kate and Brad.
Caitlin and Brad. Basically is coaching Brad, right? Which is a little like, so, sometimes a little weird. Or and some of the other games, Brad and Kim has to coach the team. So that's not a very easy dynamic, right? Especially you're in the player mind, you might not be seeing what's going uh on the match as a full, right? So that's a very difficult, and sometimes making like difficult decisions. Say, no, I don't want you to be up there. I need the other person up there because of, let's say, this person is now currently playing better than the other one. But right now you don't have that person making that tough decision.
Yeah, you need a coach or a manager in there to make that authoritative decision. It's like, no, hey, I'm the team manager or I'm the coach. This is what we're going with. This person has the hot hand this today, so we're riding them today. Type of thing, right?
Hmm.
There's right now with the players trying to do it themselves, it's basically too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Right? It's like and like you said, it's hard to analyze the game when you're playing in it. And
Hmm.
especially if you're trying to say, okay, this is what we need to do. That's what you need the coach to come in and do, or at least the coach to somewhat mediate what's going on, right? And
And
I'll give some. We didn't talk about Jacob that much, but I'll give some props to Jacob. He came in like on the men's side, you could tell he was nervous and that the other teams were picking on him just a little bit. He was holding his own half decently well, but where he actually really shone was on the
on the
mixed.
mix, yeah, he
Yeah, he
plays super well in the
yeah,
mix.
he played really well on the mixed side of things, winning 2 out of a possible 3 matches and playing with different partners each time. He played one with Carolina and played one, I think, with Kim.
Hmm.
Right. So obviously still a learning curve for Jacob, because and like we said, mixed and men's is a very different animal,
Yeah.
playing in, and it's gonna there that's that kind of welcome to the league culture shock that he's getting playing in the men's division.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas the mix, it's still a culture shock, but he's playing with it's a little bit more you can be in your own element type of thing,
Hmm. Yes,
right?
definitely. But yeah, I will say on the team is the biggest problem right now is the males, um, currently, right? If you can't win any matches in men's, that is a big problem. Actually a huge problem, right? Because the first of all, I have a feeling that sometimes if even the ladies lost, and then the like if you have the male to back it up, it will help to boost your team morale. Okay, I have a chance. You see the males that did win. Okay, in my mix, I have a better chance to win. But then now knowing the fact, you losing all your men's game, that is a big shock to the system, saying, oh, what is going on with my males? Is there is it because something's going on, they can't take the ball, or what's going on? Because this is a very big aspect. Like splitting 50-50, no big deal, but you cannot not winning any of them.
Yeah, exactly. And like we said, there's still 2 and 4. There's you're gonna hear us say that the next couple of teams coming up here, but they're not out of it by any means. Like this is by far the tightest league we've had so far. There's no one team that's clearly at the bottom. These are all really, really close, and a lot of these matches can go either way.
Yeah, so, but I will say that like we said, Pronghorns need to really figure out that males pairing as soon as they can, because otherwise they will suffer on the next couple splits.
Yeah, exactly. So moving on to the Brewers. So the Brewers, same thing, 2 and 4. They did start the event at 0 and 3, but then went 2 and 1 the second day. So they kind of figured out their pairings a little bit better. And I think they had that happen to them last year too, where they started an event like with like 3 or 4 straight losses and then went on fire the rest of the event. So they did have 3 returning players. They had, or 4 actually. No. Sorry, 5 actually. 5 returning players.
Yeah, 5 returning players.
5 returning players to the league, 3 returning to the team. So you had Mark Lemonson and Amanda Rosati, who were one of the best mixed pairs last year coming in. Kyle Hormetz was on the team last year as well. Very steady, very good team player. A little bit more aggressive, but very, very good at a very, very good role player. Eugene Ma coming in. He was, of course, on the Rush last year. And Tara Giuseppe, who was on the Northern Rollers last year, coming here. And then the newest player from the U.S., Ava Callis, coming in. So Ava Callis seems to, at least for now, have won that second starting spot over Tara. She was used in 10 game, or she was used in 5. Oh my God, I can't speak. She was used in 4. No, 5. Yeah, 5 out of the possible 6 games. I can't. So many numbers going into my head. She was used in 5 out of the possible 6 games, and Tara was only used in 2.
So you can and also can see the level of her play, right? Because we never met Ava, we never saw how Ava play, but based off her performance, I was like, she's pretty solid, and she deserves to be the second on their team.
Yeah, exactly. Like very, very solid. Really good counter punches. Really good at digging the ball up, and also not really giving the other team something to work with, whether she was playing women's or playing mixed. Like teams would attack her, but like she'd just put the ball back over, and like they couldn't really do anything extra with it. Like it's not like she was giving them like high bounces or anything like that. Amanda was same thing, really steady. The biggest thing with the Brewers was they were very inconsistent in their mixed games. They were like their men's was pretty solid, their women's was pretty solid. But yeah, the big thing is they always had trouble putting both of them together. Like you'd either have the men's win really well, and then the women would lose, and then the mixes would kind of go. They'd either lose both or they'd win one, type of thing. Or same thing, they'd lose both men's and then both men's and women's, and then they'd win one mix, or they'd win 2 mix, type of thing like that. Like they, with the exception of the 2 wins that they had, and one of them, I think, if I remember correctly, was it wasn't a Dream Breaker, but like they only put it together in 2 matches, whereas the rest of them you could see it was there. It was just it was never clicking at the same time. It was either the men's team was clicking and then the women's team wasn't, or the mixed teams were clicking and then the gender doubles weren't clicking. So like I got a feeling after another event, you see them be a more solid team because they have like Eugene and Mark played really well together. Even the games they lost, they were always in. Like it was never like a blowout.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with Amanda and Ava. Like the games they lost were always like a 21-20, a 21-18, right? It's just putting together the wins at the same time to kind of get them to push forward with that.
Yeah, and also I will say, by second day they kind of figure out better which team player had their role, because you can see on the first day there's a lot of clash of paddle right in the center, even in the genders, with especially with Mark and Eugene. It kind of like who's being the dominant male, because obviously Mars is playing with his backhand from the right, and you have Eugene on the left, and there is a lot of kind of miscommunication here and there. But I think by the second day they kind of figure out, so which it just needs more practice with each other, and then I think they will match better. And now knowing which mixed pairing which works better, they will be able to send out the proper lineup, because I will say the first day they're just like, let's try mismatch right there.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I found what I noticed that they did on the second day is instead of having Mark and Amanda together, which is what they did all last year, they actually put Mark with Ava and put Eugene with Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
So and I looked like that mesh pair, because Ava's really good at locking down that 20% side of her court, because Mark does like to come in and take like a good 70 to 80 in those matches. And it seems and as we said from last year with Amanda plays better and better and better the more she touches the ball. So you almost want to do more of a 60-40 split with her. So that actually plays into Eugene's style of play a little bit. Yes, Eugene will come in and poach, but he will defer to Amanda to get more balls.
Yeah, because Mark is more calculated player. He's like trying to use the spin to actually mess with your opponent, rather than actually force force a poach or something like that. So that's a different style between Mark and Eugene, and in the mixed pairing, that also makes it a little difference, right?
Yeah, so I'm really interested to see what they do the next event, to see those pairings get locked down, and whether or not they can, because most of them are all from Toronto area, with the exception of like Eugene. I can't remember exactly where in the States Ava is from, but I think she's close enough to the Toronto area that her coming in for, say, like a practice weekend isn't too much other way. I want to say, is it Pennsylvania? She's from there?
Maybe. I'm not sure, unfortunately.
Yeah. One sec here. I got my scouting report. Where is it here? Brewers. Yeah, Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania is at least somewhat close to Ontario. So, so Eugene's the furthest one away, obviously, in BC. So even if they can like pick a week or a weekend, or even if they do a couple days early for the next event and get everyone out there and get some more practice, I mean, I got a feeling you're going to see a little bit more of a complete performance from the Brewers at the next couple events.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to the Northern Lights. Now, this was one of those teams where, like, when we made our predictions, we were like, "Hey, we don't know." Like, with the exception of Joel, we know nobody on this team. So we did put them kind of low. I know I had them originally in last place. Now, I will give this team props. They went 2-4, but they lost 3 Dream Breakers. So out of their 4 losses, 3 of those basically went to a Dream Breaker. So they were right in it.
Well, most of them, yeah,
three of those losses, so they could have easily have been a 5-1 team, right? So, now I'm going to give props to Joel Peltier here. He was by far the most consistent player on this team. I think he, and they kind of had their starters already figured out. Like, they had Lucas Wong, Joel, Marie-Christine Salvez, and Daniel Boss. They each played 5 games, whereas Isabel Tang and Graham Hiller only played 2.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Isabel and Graham played really good in their first game. Their second game they played, they got beat a little badly by Toronto United. but they also got stuck playing as a team. They got stuck playing like Matt Kawamoto or something like that. So I think Toronto might have been the home team that game, so they were able to make their picks accordingly. But like Joel played 10 total matches between mixed and men's and won 6. So he went 3-5 and 3-5, 3 out of 5 and 3 out of 5 in both mixed and men's. So that's what you need from Joel. You need that.
Exactly.
You need that consistent performance. Marie Christine was almost the same thing. She went because she was playing with Joelle for her mixes, so went 3 out of 5 as well. But then she also went 4 out of 5 in the women's. So even better. So 70% out of a 10 possible matches. Lucas struggled a little bit in the mix. Like he played well with Joelle. On the men's side,
especially the first day.
Yeah, the first day he looked really tentative, like wasn't willing to take over more of the court. Because when you saw him play with Joel, he was assertive. He was making plays. He was counterpunching. He was doing things, especially for what is he, the second overall pick?
Yeah, second overall pick.
Yeah, for the second overall pick, you're expecting him to come in and perform insanely well, right? So. Now, by the end of it, it looked like he had gotten a little bit more comfortable playing with Danielle in that mixed spot, but you still want to see a little bit more out of that because let me see here. I'm going to pull over my stat sheet here. Going 1 for 5 isn't quite good enough, and actually that's that's one of the reasons why you keep going to the Dream Breaker, because you're pretty consistently winning the men's, you're pretty consistently winning the women's. Right. And it looks like Joel, when he's in there, Joel and Marie are pretty consistently winning their mixed. Right. So if you lose one of those, though, and then Lucas comes in with Danielle and loses that mix, you're instantly 2-2. You're going to Dream Breaker.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
And
So
we can really see Lucas is not as comfortable trying to poach and taking that much court in the mix, and that's and kind of maybe it will take him a little bit more, just a little bit more time. We can see on the second day he already tries much more, and did already make some impact out of it. But still, I would like to see him take even more, like almost like Joel level of play.
Yeah, you just need him to take the next step, and when you're drafted that high, that's just the expectations we put on you, right? So it's like when you're drafted in the top 5, we expect you to come in and perform, right? So and like I said, he did a good job performing in the men's. It was more so in the mix where you normally at pro level the men takes a little bit more responsibility on the court, and it was more so, like I said, tentative play. Right. So, and like you could see him getting more and more comfortable as the weekend went on. So that's all you really need to see is him be confident and then take more of those shots. And then that'll help out his partner. And like Definitely. I said, as for Isabel and Graham, their first game, which we got to commentate on, Graham won both of his matches, one with Joelle and one, and him and Isabel won their match. And that actually forced the Dream Breaker, and that Isabel's got an insanely good overhand. Made some really, really smart shots down the line, making the male player in mix really have to play honest, because I think when they were playing the Brewers, she burned Eugene down the line like 4 or 5 times for him cheating in, right? So.
Well, also Isabel knowing Eugene, right? They're playing, they're practicing together in Vancouver. So,
but on the same side, Eugene should know that she can make that shot, right? So
true.
So it's masking it very well to the fact that you're getting someone who knows you so well. That'd be like me hitting one of my typical backhand Ernies on you, Vic, and you being you letting me do it like 3 times in a match.
Yeah, true.
Right, like it's not, you know it's coming. You know you shouldn't put the ball there. So, but yeah, and then like I said, Graham showed really good counter punching. He was able to dig the ball up a lot on some of those long rallies in the matches he was in. So, like I said, this is a really steady team. It's getting that finish. right? Like you're already forcing all these teams to beat you in the Dream Breaker. So I don't know, maybe some of these players go back and practice singles a little bit more. Because even in the singles, they were pretty tight. Like it was always like a 21-17, a 21-18, a 21-19 type of loss, right? So maybe practice singles a little bit, knowing that there's the high possibility that you're going to be going to a Dream Breaker, and see if you can. And then I would be also interested to see, because I noticed, at least in all the Dream Breakers I watched that weekend, there was no guy versus girl at any point. It was all men versus men, women versus women. And you're going to start, once the season starts moving on, you're going to see teams start to maybe pull out that strategy. Okay, let's stick our best female against their best male and see if they can steal one or 2 points, and see if we can take the advantage and sweep the other side. Because we did see teams do that last year.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
And,
so, yeah.
I'll say the other thing with the lights currently, and especially on their females, is there is no power female in that team currently. Mary Christine is she's very good at the slicing the ball, but she's not the one's going to finish the point either. Same for Danielle. She's very good at counter punching, but she also lacks of power finishing the point. And also Isabel, a little bit the same thing, and that shows. That's why in Dream Breaker, if you cannot be able to finish the point, especially in single, you're not playing doubles. You're playing singles, so you need to finish the point, right?
Yeah, right. And like I think both Danielle and Isabel have the ability to do that. It's just being a little bit more powerful on their on those shots. Like Marie Christine is very, very good because she's got such good slices both on her forehand and her backhand that she gets those setup shots. She just needs and I would also like to see her turn over a little bit more and do a little bit more power finishes, because there was a couple there where they popped at least up to her, where for you and me that would be okay, that's a forehand hard roll down the middle or down the side, and she would slice it. Yeah. And it's a really deep slice, but because it's a slice, it's a little bit slower, and the other team is at least able to hit it back over the net, not necessarily do anything with it, but keep the rally alive and sometimes be able to work their way back up to the line, right? So I wouldn't mind seeing Marie Christine add that to her repertoire, and then Isabel and Danielle being a little bit more aggressive just on those setup shots, because they both have good counter punching. They're both really good at keeping the guy over on his side, so on the opposite team, so he can't come over and poach. It's just getting that little bit more power, either forehand or power backhand kind of flick shot.
Yeah, adding that finishing shot, basically. If they can do that, I think that they will be much better.
Yeah, and like we said, they're already like you said, they're 2-4, but 3 of those losses are in Dream Breaker, right? Exactly. So they're already right there with those other teams. So it's just putting those kind of finishing touches together. Maybe you can steal a couple more games so you don't go to the Dream Breaker, and then I'd say work on your singles a little bit, or devise a strategy when you go to that Dream Breaker. Because if you're expecting to go there, then do a strategy, whether it's a guy versus a girl matchup that you do to try and make it in your favor, or practicing, say, okay, we're going to practice maybe this combo in singles to try and get the other team off balance.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, moving on to the Smash. So the Smash had a really good weekend. They went 3-3, so that's good enough for the third best, or tied for the third best record. And similar to the Northern Lights, they had majority of their starting lineup pretty much set. So Jessica Kawamoto, Ryan Torrenson, and Preston Gordon all played every single game. Where they rotated was that second female spot between Stella Lee and Serena Smith. Corey Osborne didn't get in at all, but Corey Osborne was acting more of like the coach through the event. And as usual with Ryan and Jessica, really strong on the mixed side. They were the best mixed team last year in the CNPL. Out of a possible 6 wins, they took 5 of them at this event. So really strong there. Ryan and Preston were both were also really strong on the men's, taking 4 out of a possible 6. On the men's side. It was the women's side where they were running into some issues, And still, like I said, they're 3-3. It's not like it was massive issues, but if you're going to look at one little weak spot,
Yes.
this is where that is. And I think it's a combination of the fact that Serena and Stella were splitting the games. So it was Jessica trying to adapt to each of them, and Serena and Stella both play a slightly different style. Stella is more of the reset, a little bit more with a little bit of counter punch, whereas Serena's a little bit more aggressive. She does drive the ball a little bit more. She does have a little bit stronger of an overhand. So it's basically them adjusting to how Jessica plays, because Jessica obviously is an insanely good digger, can dink and set up her partner. She's very good at causing the other team to give her that Ernie shot. The biggest issue that I found with the women's side of this team is same thing as kind of what we said in the Northern Lights. Not a lot of really super strong finishing power. Like Jessica can do it, but she really excels at setting up her teammates with her dinks. So like either Serena or Stella need to kind of step in there and work on that finishing power shot.
Yeah, they need to basically be able to help out Jessica. Yes, Jess is very good at digging, but you need someone to go, like when the opportunity arises, instead of thinking back, just go at it, because otherwise you get caught into that hand battles, and then unfortunately in the hand battles, whatever team that hits hit the hardest will win. And we can see a lot of the hand battles happen on the women's side. The smash did loss because they none of them has enough that plow through power in order to finish the point.
Exactly, yeah, and we did see quite a few teams utilize the lob against the smash women, because I think the average height of the women on that team is maybe 5'4". I'm not sure how tall Serena Smith is, but definitely Jessica and Stella. Especially in the games where the two of them were playing together, I saw a couple of teams really utilize the lob. They didn't score, but they were to push them back, and then of course Jessica and Stella had to work their way back up to the kitchen. So even if it's just wearing out your opponent, the other team started doing that. I noticed, especially a little bit more on the second day.
Yes, definitely. I did. I just saw that too. So I will say they have to figure out who at least one of them needs to try to cover for that smash instead of just covering for overhead, but do a smash in order to kind of scare the opponent. Okay, don't lob again. Do you lob again, I'm gonna smash you.
Yeah, exactly right. And now that is a kudos to the other team of hiding it, but once they do it once or twice, take one step back and get yourself ready to hammer that down on them. But yeah, other than that, so like Preston and Ryan were super
super steady,
super steady together. Very, very, and they are by far the aggressors when they play.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The only time they ran into problems is when they ran into a really good team that could counterpunch or beat them to the punch on being the aggressor. And even then, like I said, they won 4 out of a possible 6 matches. So,
and Ryan did a very nice shot. He was almost like a diving ATP from his backhand. That was amazing.
Yeah, and that was I think against the Owls in either I can't remember if it was the men or the mix, because he had a couple really good ATPs where the team tried to pull him super wide and he managed to get that ball around. But yeah, so the smash is just kind of, it's figuring out that women's side. And seeing if Serena or Stella can kind of, which one of them can kind of grab hold, or depending on who you're playing, which of their games suits going against which opponent you're playing.
Yeah,
it's figuring that out. Which of them is going to complement Jess the best, depending on which opponent you're playing. Ryan and Preston are already pretty much down. Jessica and Ryan are set for that mixed team. And Preston played really well with both Serena and Stella. So both of them play well with Preston. So it's basically like, okay, what style does the women's team that we're going up against play? Okay, does Stella or Serena suit to counter that better? Is basically what they need to work on. All right, moving on to the other team that went 3-3, the Vancouver Owls. This team, me and Vic got to watch a couple matches of this. This team is such an enigma, because the men's team is really strong. And we're going to give a lot of props to Armand here because so Armand and Christina played every single match. I'll just go by who played how many matches. So Anna played 4, Ava played 4, Kaylin played 4, and then Ava and Eric played 2 each, and Kaylin and Anna played 4 out of the possible 6.
Okay.
On the men's side, so Armand, out of a possible 6 games on the men's, won 5, and that's playing with Kaylin and Eric. So Kaylin, he won 3 of those with, and he won 2 of them with Eric. So basically, both games Eric went in. They won both men's, and out of the possible 4 he could win with Kaylin, they won 3 of them. So their men's team is good. We don't have to. They don't really have to worry about their men's team that much. Where they started to struggle a little bit was the women's. They were a little bit inconsistent. And once again, I think that's everyone kind of figuring out how to play together and it's very different play styles. Because we saw one of the first games I saw them play, you had Anna playing with Christina. They had Christina on the left and Anna on the right. And they were losing pretty badly. And then when they made the switch and put Anna on the left and Christina on the right, they started to catch up. Now, it was still too big of a mountain to climb, but I found they worked better that way. Whereas when Ava's in there, when Ava plays with Christina, pretty much when Ava plays with either of them, you want Ava on the right because Ava is a very, very good right side dinker and counter puncher, right? So, and like I said, they kind of tried out everybody a little bit here. But the biggest problem that they had was when it was which team showed up, because in their losses they lost hard. Like there was games where one game Armand and Christina would win like 21-15. The next game they would lose 21-9.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm thinking this team like lives and dies by their and like you can tell how emotional these players are. Like they're like, for a team owned by the Quiet Paddle, they are certainly not a quiet team. Right. But you can see Armand especially wears his emotions on his sleeve. Christina's always been very similar to that. And especially for the two of them playing as a mixed pairing, they need to find a way to keep that consistency. Because it's very hard to believe that you watch one game they play, and like I said, they win 21-16 against a really good team. They go their next game, they play another really good team, and they lose 21-8 or 21-9. Right? It's one of those things where it's like, hey, if you guys could play that first game consistent like that the whole time, your record should be you should be like a 4-2 or at least like a 5-1 type of thing, right? And they were one of the teams that pushed the Lions almost to the brink. Like they went into a dream breaker the first time they played Lions, but then the second time that was where the other team showed up, and all of a sudden you're losing games like 21-8, 21-12, 21-15, stuff like that, right? So it's for them, it's finding that consistent thing, and it's funny because you watch and you can see them almost when they start having trouble is when they start trying to do too much.
Yep. And even you can also see it, they're still really figuring them out a lot, because when Christina was play with Armand, like naturally you will say, oh, Armand should be on the left and Christina should be on the right. But it didn't match well until they actually do the switch, having Christina on the left and Armand on the right, which is like, and you can also see on their Instagram, they actually won a match having a Christina on the left and Armand on the right. So that was very interesting.
Yeah, like Armand has a very, very good backhand, a dink and flick shot, and then one of Christina's calling cards is her forehand roll shot, right? So if that ends up what they have to do to be more consistent, or even if you just throw that switch in midway through a match to mess with the other team, right? Mm-hmm. Like Kalen was super solid all the way through. He actually has the best win percentage on the team at 75%. So Kalen was solid no matter who he played with. Eric came in and and it's funny because all three men are very, very aggressive. Very, very aggressive. Very, very. Kalen's probably the most, I'd say, calm out of the three of them, and he's still super, and he's still super aggressive. But he's got a very, very good, very, very quick hands and a very, very good counter punch. Yeah. So if I were to kind of pick the start, it would, I would say for the next event, I would say Kalen would get probably a little bit more games in, because Kalen seems to be. And it's because him and Armand play together consistently, better suited with Armand, even though Eric came in and won both games. Kalen and Armand just seemed a little bit more steadier. And then Kalen also, when he played his mix, was very, very steady there. Yeah. Right. Ava does a very good job subbing in for Anna. If Anna needs a break, she mixes with Christina very well. But like I said, it comes down to, because Armand and Christina are playing every game, it comes down to the two of them having a consistent showing at every match. Because like I said, when they win, they would win by a lot or win by a little, but then the next game, all of a sudden they lose by a blowout.
Exactly. They can go out very quickly.
Right. So it's one of those ones where if they can put in that consistent performance all the way through, they'll be one of the top contending teams.
Definitely.
And they technically already are. They're tied for third, right? So at a 3-3 record. So they came out of this weekend with that inconsistency and still managed a 3-3 record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you expect them like be picking those play. They have basically a couple of top draft pick, right? So you expect they will come on top much easily. But anyway,
that's why we play the games, right?
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the team with the second best overall record, the Toronto United team, which I am going to throw out the caveat right away because Ricky did give me some crap for this. I did have them ranked last when we did our way too early predictions. However, that trade for Jordan made a huge difference.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So, and I'm going to say that right away. Now, their men's team is locked in. I don't even think Johnson was there at this event. I don't know if he was available or not, but it didn't matter. Max Wild and Matthew Kawamoto played very, very, very well. Which with Matthew Kawamoto, no surprise. But then Maximilian, we were expecting good things from him, but we just hadn't seen him play. Mm-hmm. But they played really well. They won 5 of a possible 6 men's matches. So you're starting almost every game with a 1-0 lead already.
Yeah, the men's is basically basically locked in.
Yeah,
to be honest with you.
And it really didn't matter who they played mixed with either. They both went 3 out of a possible 6. So that's a 50% split. On the women's side, the women all took turns. They all played 4 games each. Now, and the interesting thing was it depends on what you favor. Do you favor counterpunching and steady? Do you favor aggressiveness? It was interesting. Like the most consistent out of the 3 was Sneha Iyer. Like I said, out of an 8 possible matches, she won 6. So she won 3 women's, she won 3 mix. Mm-hmm. Right. So 3 out of 4 on both of those, right? Jordan went 2 mixed wins, 3 women's wins. Jada went 1 mixed win, 4 women's wins. Seeing how Sneha and Jordan are vets, we'll go with Jada first. Jada reminds me a lot of Anne-Sophie Courteau of the Lions last year. Like this tennis player coming in, we were expecting really, really good ground strokes. We weren't sure how they were going to handle the soft game, right? Just because we hadn't seen them play, and obviously that's the big difference in pickleball is the dinking and the up at the kitchen line stuff. What we weren't expecting was how many women she caught off guard with her drives.
Yes, well, you can see it on her on her record, right? She won 1 mix, but she won 4 women's, right? So you can really see that power game did really hurt all the other women's. but obviously in the mix, the power you have the male to counteract that power. So that I think that's the problematic into the mix game.
And that's also getting used to who you're playing with, like playing with Max and playing with Matt, who will take up a lot of court. The nice thing is and that's going to be something to work on, is okay, we're going to have Jada take this much of the court, and like I said, like we saw with Anne Sophie last year, we saw when she played with Ernesto kind of shield her a little bit until she got used to that soft game, and then she was able to take more of the court and improve. Like if you were going to pick someone who improved from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, Anne Sophie is one of those from last year, right? So
definitely
Jada has that potential to go from being like this powerhouse with on the mixed side a little bit of issues, which are easy, like I said, easy to work on.
Yeah,
especially if you put in the team practices and put in the work, to then becoming a insane powerhouse. But it was amazing. Like it was like the other teams didn't do a scouting report. It's like, okay, this female is coming from a high level tennis background. You know she's going to hit the ball hard with a ground stroke.
Yeah,
and how many women did she clip? She clipped so many women off of that ground stroke from the baseline. It wasn't even slight, and she did obviously do some from the transition zone and some from the kitchen line, but I couldn't believe how many women, like, it was like she caught them off guard. It's like, oh, I wasn't expecting the ball to come that fast. And it's not like she was using an illegal paddle. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It was just like, no, it's a powerful ground stroke. Why aren't you ready?
Yeah.
Like it's like, so that's a testament to Jada, how strong of a ground shot she has. Right, like we watched the game against the Pronghorns, and she caught Kim Layton, who is one of the most vet pros in this league, like multiple national championship winner. And I think she caught Kim at least 6 times in the women's match.
Yeah, multiple times, and we were surprised, like, what is going on?
Yeah, right. And like we say, like the camera takes like 5-10 kilometers off the ball when you're watching it. Yeah, via live stream. Like, so I like. So if we make it out to event, Jada, I want to get on the court and have you drive the ball at me, just so I can see how fast this thing is coming. Because
I don't think
the way you were yeah, but also I'll know it's coming. But I just want to see. I want to see the speed, because she caught so many women off guard with it.
Yeah.
Right. And like and then Jordan and Sneha like kind of did their job. Like they were solid. They're both solid. Counter punchers, solid dinkers. Sneha had some really good shots in both the women and the mixed matches. So it's basically so you have all 3 women there playing well.
Yeah, I'll say Toronto United has the most kind of well balanced team, to be honest. I can say that.
Yes, because Max and Matt both can drive, they both can counter punch, right? So. And it was nice to see by the end of the weekend, it kind of, you see it all starting to come together.
Yep.
So like I said, a couple little things to work on, but and like I said, you can sub any of the 3 women in depending on who you're playing. So if you want more of a powerhouse, obviously if you're playing a team where you think, okay, power is gonna beat this women's team, you stick Jada in with either Sneha or Jordan.
Yep.
Right. If it's like, okay, we want more of a dinking counter punch, then you would go Jordan and Sneha.
Exactly.
Right. So you can you have the ability to do both now. And you saw it with the result. And like, it was funny because their last 2 games they swept.
Yeah.
So they went, so if you're just going matches, like just game matches, they went 8-0 the last 8 games they played,
which is incredible.
And that was with all 3 women playing. It wasn't just they picked 2 women and went both. They had, I think, Jada, and I can't remember, I'd have to go back and look at the actual game notes, but they had they had Jordan play one, they had Sneha play one, and then Jada played one at least as well. I can't remember who played both, but like, you came in and played really well. It's going to be really interesting to see at the Eastern split when they play the Eastern teams, what the Eastern teams do to counterpunch this. But yeah, definitely. So like shout out to Toronto United. Like I said, I did put them last, but I'm gonna throw in the caveat again. That was before the trade happened, because you just added to it, right? Like, and that, like I said, this is not a shot at Carolina Hack at all. I honestly don't think the Pronghorns used her properly. but like, and we were, and I, like I said, I remember watching their Beyond the Kitchen thing where they were doing the draft and they were aiming for Jordy in the draft and they just didn't get her.
Mm-hmm.
I think just having Jordy in there as like that steady counterpuncher, that person who can dink and all that, and that 3-year seasoned vet, and also being a little bit younger, so maybe can relate with Jada a little bit better because of course Caroline is a little bit older,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Now I don't know if that has anything to do with it whatsoever, but just possible speculation. But it was the person they were aiming for at the beginning of the season, and they got her there. So it just seems to be that the team is meshing already. So it's going to be really interesting what kind of a run they can go on now.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, and that's a very good showing for them.
Absolutely. And then we go to the reigning defending champions, the Lions. And true to form from last year, they only brought 4 players. So all 4 players played all 6 games. The only really question was how is Stevie going to do? And she did fine.
Exactly. Like, she did very good. Actually, she did more than fine. More than fine.
She complimented Anne-Sophie very well. She complimented Ernesto very well. Yeah. And my early vote already for most improved player from last year is Anne-Sophie Courteau.
Yeah.
She played lights out. So just for everyone, jot this. So out of a possible 12 games, so that's mixed and women's, she won 10.
Yeah, that's a big.
So that's an 83. Number. That's an 83% win percentage. Here's an even better one for you. So if you were to score, so out of 12 games, if you score, if you the total possible points you could possibly score in 12 games is 252. She scored 250. So so she only lost twice, and both games it was 21-20.
There you go.
Right. So like that, like she's like it wasn't even close. Like her drive coming from that tennis background is even stronger now. Her dinking game is so much better. Like you can tell she's been going down to the States and playing in those APP, those PPA tournaments, and she's gone down and played with Ernesto in a couple of those as well. But that's my standout player for this event. And like I said, early runner for most improved player in comparison to last season. As usual, Ernesto and LC were their usual selves. Out of a possible 6 men's matches, they won 4. And then it's funny. So then out of a possible for mixed matches, so Ernesto and Stevie went 4 for 6, and like I said, LC and LC and Anne-Sophie went 5 for 6. Ernesto and LC and men's went 4 for 6. So it's just like they're like off and running again and playing the game of Kate. We're just bringing our starters.
Exactly.
So yes, you do run the risk of if an injury pops up, you're in trouble, right? And with this year in comparison to last year, the teams only played 6 games over the weekend.
Exactly.
Whereas
you play less.
You're playing less. So like last year, you were playing like 9, 10 sometimes. So and last year you could see the fatigue start to kick in, especially the first 2 events last year. And you could see that sometimes they'd lose those matches, or at least they would go to Dream Breaker and they might squeak it out by the skin of their teeth. Right. But this one, like I think they got taken to a Dream Breaker only twice, once by the Owls and I think once by the Northern Lights. Yeah. Other than that, they were winning 3-1, 3-1, 3-1, 4-0. Like they came in and just dominated, are off and running with a 6-0 start. Like there's not even a lot. There's not even a lot to critique. Stevie played really, like I said, insanely good. She's a very, very good counterpuncher. Her dinks are really good. She did a really good job of setting up Anne-Sophie. She did a really good job of setting up Ernesto. And there was a couple miscues in there, but not enough for them to really lose a match.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I think the only weird thing is sticking Ernesto on the right instead of LC on the right, because the last year they did put Ernesto on the left instead of LC on the left. So that was kind of a interesting take. I don't know what was the real reasoning, but I still feel Ernesto should be on the left rather than LC, because there is one. I think there was one match that at the men's they all should have won, but LC was a little like he has a little bit like the same thing of last year, not able to finish the game because they're stuck at that 20 freeze, and then LC was trying to do too much and trying to do too much and let the other team come over and take it.
Yeah. So we'll see, because like we said, the next up is the Eastern split. So it's going to be the Lions, Toronto United, the Brewers, and the Smash all competing against each other. So, and like we said, this event, none of those teams played each other. So it's going to be really interesting to see, because I think you have probably the three strongest men's team, or at least three of the strongest men's team in the Eastern side. Like you have like the Smash with Ryan and Preston, you have Ernesto and LC, and then you have Matt and Max. So I got a feeling that those are going to be insane matches to watch. And then the big thing will be to see if the women on those other teams can take the reins away from Anne-Sophie and Stevie, because right now they're walking away with right now the toughest women's team to beat.
Definitely.
Right. So, but like I said, none of these teams have played each other yet, and a lot of these players are a little bit more familiar with each other because a lot of them are from the same area.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that Eastern split. It's gonna be electric for sure. But so aside from Anne-Sophie, Vic, do you got any other players you kind of want to give a shout out to? I know we kind of spotlighted a bunch while we were going to the breakdowns there, but
I'll say no, not really. I'll say we did mention all the players that we think that play stand out a little bit more. I will say definitely. I will definitely shout out our Alberta youngsters, Ava Weeks and Jacob Okawi, because they. I will say Ava did improve quite a bit, especially on her one-handed backhand flick. You can see that she was definitely much more devastating with that shot, and Jacob being able to come in as a for his first time coming in, and I think he's the second youngest apart from Stevie. So and it did put up a pretty good performance this time.
yeah, exactly. So for those of you keeping track at home, the standings after the one event are Lions in first at 6-0, Toronto United at 4-2, the Smash and the Owls are both tied at 3-3, and then we have a four-way tie for the rest of the group. So Northern Lights, Brewers, Pronghorns, and the Drive are all at 2-4. So unlike the last 2 years, all these teams are super close. They're, like we said, there's a bunch of those 2-4 teams that could literally be 3-3 or even a 4-1 or a 4-2 type of thing, right? So that's the one big thing I'm taking out of this event so far, is that this is a much higher caliber league this year with the skill level of the players and how veteran players have improved.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the things are going to come down to the women's team, because the men's teams are all super, super close.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you have certain ones winning more than others, but if you watch all those games,
they're very close. The skill level is like, it's not much.
It's so close. So it's going to be whichever teams their women's team and the mix can really put it all together at the end there. Right now, the Lions are off and running with the lead right now. But let's see if Toronto United can build off the momentum they've built and finalizing that mix that is coming together. Same thing with the Smash and the Owls, and like we said, the Northern Lights, Brewers, Pronghorns, Drive. If they can find that consistent mix, it's going to be a tight race this year.
Definitely.
So before we wrap up, There will be another podcast next week because I'm going to go compete in the minor league pickleball event going on at the Mega Courts in Calgary. Victor, of course, is going to be reffing. So we'll be able to take a look at the new facility because it is kind of like their grand opening that they're also doing with it. So we'll get to check out the facility, give a good review on the facility. There's a lot stronger teams in my division this year. There is literally a team with Kim Layton, Anna Deshenko, and Chris Elaine on it.
Good luck.
Yeah, Jacob and Ava are on a team together as well. The cool thing though is for the Duper 20, and I just saw this in a post. The grand prize is a lot bigger.
Okay.
So if my team can at least get to the podium, there might be a little bit more stuff waiting for us. So. But we're in tough against those two teams for sure. I think we can do a good job against the other teams in the division.
You have only 6 teams too instead of 8 teams, so maybe better chance. You have 50-50.
Yeah, so it's gonna be tight. I'm interested to see because today the day we're recording is the last day for registration. So I'll be interested to see if we're gonna do two pools of 3 or if we're just gonna do one big round robin. I'm hoping the one big round robin because I would like to play all the teams and get more games in.
It will be more fun usually.
Yeah, and I want to test myself against like Kim and Chris and Anna and stuff like that. So that'll be fun. So yeah, it's me and Irene. We got Irene's other partner, Mai, playing with us, and then we're picking up because Victor, of course, is reffing. We're picking up Benjamin Lim as our other partner. Me and Ben played a couple practice games against Vic and Ben's dad, Lester, and we kicked their ass. So, so me and Ben meshed pretty well. At least I think so. He's got an insanely good 2-hand backhand. So it'll be interesting. It's more so just figuring out, okay, what sides do we want? So
especially Ben now has a new paddle because I gave him his new paddle. Well, okay.
Oh, nice.
Quick story is basically he bought he needed a better paddle. So see that paddles matters again. I'll talk to you again. So Ben was started playing with a Selker amp. So he's getting good spin out of it, but you can see that the paddle spin was fading out very quickly because it's spray on grit, right, on this paddle. And this paddle, I hated. I actually gave it to him because I wanted on a surprise on Selker or something like that. I was like, I don't want it. And then Lester said, dude, I want to buy it from you. I was like, no, I got it for free. I'll just give it to you. Ben likes it, but you can see he's missing the pull away power with that paddle. Like just basically, I can see it on every shot that he makes a good shot, but like I can defend it because it's not it does not pop out of the paddles strong enough. So after that, he said, Lester came to me. Is there another paddle I can buy Ben to get a better power out of it? I was like, well, if you want to just have a little step of a higher power spectrum and having the paddle not playing too differently, that's why I gave him the PaddleTech Bantam TKO CX, which is a paddle that has 5.75-inch length handle, so you can definitely put your 2-hand backhand very easily in there, as a 12.7 millimeters, so which is a very close to what the Selker amp was. Selker amp was around that 13 millimeter thickness. So, and then he was playing very good with that paddle until the edge guards start breaking off. From this paddle, and then I was like, and then he's like, "Oh no, that paddle is breaking off. What am I gonna do?" And I was like, "Well, I bought it from PaddleTech. Let me check if PaddleTech is gonna warranty it." So shout out to PaddleTech. They actually warranty because they have a lifetime warranty on those paddles, right? So they actually, I just send them picture, and it's like, yeah, no problem. We'll just send you a new paddle. So a couple of weeks ago, I was in in the United States. I went and picked up that paddle back, and then. Now there you go. Ben has a new PaddleTech TKO CX fresh out of the PaddleTech factory.
Nice. Yeah, I think you mentioned that you got that replaced. Just you didn't have the Ben part included in that last time.
So that's so he got a brand new paddle out of it. So hopefully that will help your team to win some games.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, I need to bump my duper up a little bit higher. So. All right, so that's it for this one, everyone. Make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you guys thought if you watched the CNPL Central Split, and give a shout out to some of your favorite players. All right, so we will be back next week with a recap of the MILP, and then almost right within another week or so, we got the Eastern Split coming on the June 7th and 8th weekend. So we'll see you guys then.
Yes, see you guys soon. Thank you for tuning in.